Hey, what is going on, everybody? This is Tyler Carlston here with the Mortgage Accelerated podcast. And today we have an awesome guest, Todd Bitter of JKS Mortgage. How are you doing, Todd?
Good, Tyler. Good to be
Thanks
here.
for coming on, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So, what's been up with you lately?
Busy, very busy. The mortgage world is on fire right now, especially the broker world.
Yeah, that it is. I heard you had a pretty crazy last month.
Yeah, April was a record for me since I've kind of switched over to be like an independent guy that works from home with no, all self-generated, no team. So April was the biggest month I've had since I've done that. Just shy of 11 million, 31 loans for 10.89 million.
That is insane. I mean, you must have a team to handle all that.
That's me by myself. It's work from home, no processor, no assistant, 100% me, 100% self generated.
That is nuts. I couldn't even imagine doing that much production without like a team of like six people.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was it's a fun month to look back on and see the numbers, and it's a fun month to look at your bank account afterwards. But I don't know that I want to repeat it so soon. It was a stressful month for sure.
I mean, there were probably days you probably had 4 or 5 closings on a single day, probably.
Yeah, I think I'd have to go back and look, but I had a 2 day span where I had 9 closings in 2 days for I want to say it was almost $3 million. And
That is nuts.
yeah, it was a crazy, like towards the end of the month, I had like just a mass influx of closings in a 2 day period there.
I mean, that 2 day period is most than what 90% of brokers can do in a month.
Yeah, yeah, it was crazy. I mean, and a lot of people, a lot of people say, well, why do you only do conventional and you don't do the government stuff? And that's why. I mean, I have to, I either have to hire somebody and put trust in an assistant, or I have to just say, you know what, I'm only going to do a narrow range of the business while it's this busy. I mean, maybe someday it'll slow down and I'll say, hey, I'll take the Govy deals.
Yeah. So, what is it that causes you to only do conventional loans? Because most people take a good mix of stuff. So, why do you only mess with the conventional?
Well, mainly just for that reason. I've gotten so busy that I have to figure out what it is I want to do, and it's like I've got nine. Even if I took everything on, 80% of my business is going to be that really clean, streamlined, high credit, easy peasy deals. So at some point, I got so busy, I was like, well, I should just focus on these, and I don't want to hire somebody. Um, I like working from home. I like the control. I'm kind of a control freak. Um, so I thought, I got to cut the line somewhere. So let's cut out the government business and focus on that easy stuff that basically anybody can do in their sleep.
Yeah.
And so that's why I went that route. Uh, if it's a clean government deal, I usually pass it over to my partner who takes it on. Um, I've closed a couple FHAs here recently just because they started as conventional and we flipped them over. So,
Awesome. So, Todd, tell me a little bit more about your backstory. Where'd you come from before? Like, where did you start?
well, I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, um, and I was before the mortgage industry. I've been in the mortgage industry since the mid '90s, so it's been years, 20 plus years. Before that, I was in the car business, and I was like, I was a general manager, finance manager. I'd done a lot of that type stuff in the car industry, and I spent a few minutes in that business and hated it. There's a lot to not like about that business, and a couple guys that worked for me back in the car business left to go into the mortgage business, and they were having some success, and I was like, well, you know, if these guys can do it, I know I can do it. And that's how I got introduced to the mortgage business.
So, where'd you start out when you first got into the business?
I started a, a mortgage banker type. You know, it was a large medium-sized company. I think at the time there was probably about 70, 80 employees, about 5 or 6 branches around Ohio and northern Kentucky. And yeah, they basically closed everything in their name. Very little was ever brokered out. It was a different time. I remember one of the very first loans I ever closed was and only you old timers will know this, but my very first loan I ever closed in the mortgage industry was a 125% stated income, stated appraisal, stated asset, second mortgage. I mean, at the time you could do a $50,000 second on somebody's house, and you could just state whatever you want what the appraised value could be, as long as the loan amount was not over 50,000. You could take somebody that had $100,000 value home, and if they owed 90,000 on it, you could just say, hey, they want 50,000, their house is worth 140 or whatever. And it was crazy back then. So it was an easier time to get into business because you could basically throw a dart at the wall and hit a customer,
Yeah, for sure. So what do you think the biggest struggle was when you first got into the industry?
At that time, it was learning the guidelines, knowing how a mortgage was structured. Again, the struggles then are a lot different than the struggles now. I mean, I take my hats off to people that are new to this industry that have success, because like I said, when I got into business in the mid 90s, you could fall into loans. Getting customers was the easy part, because there's all that subprime business out there. I mean, you could do a 580 credit score, 100% financing. And literally, I can remember people didn't even have enough money to pay the $325 appraisal. So we'd have to front the appraisal just to get them into the house. And it was like, so those, you could go out and just walk around and hand your cards out and give people homes back then. It was, which ultimately led to what happened in 2007, 8, and 9, But so the struggle then was different than now. The struggle then was just learning how to operate in the business. It was an easier time. I mean, it really was. I mean, imagine how much easier it is to be successful at this business if a lack of customer was never your need. I mean, it was just learning it. So like you said, people that are newer in this business that have success, yeah, I take my hats off to them, because it's got to be a lot harder nowadays than it was for me. A lot harder.
So when did you make the switch over to the broker world?
The first time was in 99, or no, yeah, I think it was 99. I switched over and I left that original company I was with, and I went broker, stayed broker up until me and a good friend of mine that were kind of partnered up. There's 3 of us at a company in Ohio that was a broker shop, and we had a lot of success. And we all kind of split apart. And then I went to correspondent net branching route in 2004, I think it was. And I did that till 2007. And then at 2007, I went broker, and I've never looked back. So I've been broker now for 12 years.
So did you start JKS Mortgage?
No. JKS Mortgage actually is my partner, who had a really, really he has a vivid imagination. So he called his mortgage company JKS because his initials are JKS, James Kevin Smith. So he had JKS Mortgage for a number of years here in Scottsdale. And I was in Ohio. We didn't know each other, but then I met my wife, my second wife, and my my partner's wife are childhood friends. So when I first moved to Arizona, I take that back. I had like a 6-month period out of the broker world when I first moved to Arizona. I just took any job I could find in the industry. The housing market was melting down. Nobody was doing anything. I took a mortgage banking job just so I could learn the area. I didn't know anybody. I knew 3 people in Arizona. But then once I felt comfortable with the area, about 6 months after living here, that's when I partnered up with my wife's best friend's husband, who's JKS Mortgage. So
awesome. So what do you think for the last 2 years, what's been the biggest thing you've struggled with more recently?
Mine is time management. Absolutely time management. Again, I think we all have different struggles in this business. right now I'm very blessed and built a really strong referral base. Um, so finding customers is not my issue. It's time management. It's finding the time to make all this happen and not lose my mind, and also finding the time to enjoy a little bit of what I've achieved, and that's probably the biggest struggle right now.
Yeah, you got to find some golf days after an $11 million month.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
what do you,
it's crazy.
so what have you been doing to get better at the time management?
I try to compartment. I can't talk smart. I try to, set aside blocks. And I think we talked about this before we got on here. My typical day is I typically walk in. I have a home office in my office in my house that I can shut off from the rest of the house, and it's set up like an actual office. And I usually walk in here around 8 in the morning, somewhere around there, after I've been up for a little bit and just got my bearings. And I'll stay in here from about 8 until about noon. And then I force myself every day to go to the gym, or just, I try to go to the gym every day for about an hour just to clear my head. If not that, something, but I try to force myself from about 12:30 to about 1:30 to just not do anything mortgage related. And then it's back at it until probably 6:30 lately. And then I really try to shut down from about 6:30 till about 10:30. I'm a night owl. I average about 4.5 hours sleep, maybe 5 hours sleep. I'm just a guy that I've always been this way. So my wife is usually in bed by 10:30, and then I come straight back downstairs. I go straight in the office. And last night I worked till, I think it was about a little bit after 2. Usually I shut down about 1, but usually from 10:30 to 1 I work. I get more done in that time period than any other part of my day because the phone's not ringing. I don't have to take phone calls or answer people. So, but yeah, so I
Yeah,
try to
I
block
mean,
it into those sections.
yeah, I mean that's something that I've found really crucial too is blocking out your time and setting a specific amount of time for every task so that way you can really stay on top of your day because I mean without a schedule and someone breathing down your neck when you work from home like we do, it can be very easy to lose the day and then you're like, oh, I didn't get anything done when when you were trying to. And going back on your routine with the gym, that's something that I do also is a morning routine every morning for me is crucial. So I go like on a 3 mile walk. If it's not raining, I take my dog with me and then I go on a 2 mile bike ride every day and listen to audiobooks while I do it. And it just gets me in the right mindset for the day. So time management's really crucial when you work from home like we do.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's funny when I first started working from home, it was a struggle to stay focused, and now it's kind of the opposite. Now it's a struggle to not get lost in the business, So,
Yep.
but yeah, I still wouldn't trade it for anything. I mean, it's nice to never have to sit in rush hour traffic. It's nice not to have to see people face to face and listen to their sob stories of why they have a 580 credit score. It's always those. It's always the ones that want to meet face to face that have some crazy story. It's like my
Yep.
typical 800 buyer. They don't want to meet me. It's like, just give me my loan and get out of my hair.
Yep, for sure. So what do you what would be some tips that you could make that you could give somebody wanting to get into the mortgage business?
Um, it's all about. I mean, anybody can learn the guidelines, but it's crucial you learn the guidelines because you can be the greatest person at marketing yourself in the world. You go out there and you get a realtor to give you a shot and you screw that up. You only get one shot. I mean, once you're established as a realtor, yeah, they'll give you a little break here and there if you make a mistake, but you better be well established before those mistakes happen. And I see too often guys get in this business, they learn the sales part of it, but they don't learn the guidelines. And again, you work your butt off to get that realtor or that referral partner, whatever they may be, whether they're a realtor or whatever. And right out of the gate, you make a mistake because you didn't learn your guidelines and your craft first. Well, guess what? You've lost that person forever. They're never going to come back to you if you don't show them that you understand the business.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many lenders out there that are hitting up these realtors. You really only have one chance to form that relationship that sticks. Because I mean, if you screw it up, I mean, they have 10 other people coming begging them for referrals. So I mean, it's you really only have that one shot, like you'd said, to get it right, and you better.
Well, yeah, I mean, because there's always a guy like me right there in the wings waiting to scoop up that realtor. And honestly, most of my realtor business I've met either from the listing side, or I met through a customer that was a referral of mine that brought their own realtor to the table. I I've never, I mean, all my business is real estate business. It's all realtor referral or previous customer. Something people probably think is they probably think I go out and market realtors. I've never stepped foot in a realtor's office where I wasn't invited and I wasn't already doing business with them. I've never walked in and brought donuts. I've never cold called a realtor, not one time. Um, every single realtor I have either was somebody I met on a transaction, whether it was a buyer's realtor that I already had the buyer or a listing agent on the other side, or I've met them through title companies. And that's the thing that I think most people miss is the art of using the other people in the transaction to build
Yeah.
that realtor base.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that I really point on with our clients is look, you have to get away from a lot of the industries like, okay, the realtors have all the power in the relationship where where you have to go to them, where that shouldn't be the case. The realtors should be coming to you for business. And so, I mean, so many people waste all their days just going around all these real estate offices and don't get anywhere. And then they've wasted so much time working in their business and working on their business.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, every almost all my business is real estate realtor driven. Okay, I mean, I do get referrals from old clients and things like that, but I'd say 90%, 85, 90% of every closing of all my closings are originated and given to me by a realtor. But those realtors, I mean, I know this goes against core, which a lot of people are big diehard core fans. Um, but Marketing Monday pisses realtors off. I've got agents that tell me all the time that the reason why they like working with me, besides the fact that I do what I say and I keep them in contact, I keep communication. But in fact, I was just at Redfin, which is a big, Redfin's one of my big clients. I was in front of 42 Redfin agents 2 weeks ago. And the manager of that office, for the new people that didn't know me yet, because they'd had a bunch of new hires in there, the first thing she said to him was, "Hey, this is Todd. This is the guy I've been telling you about. What you'll like about Todd is he'll never call you and ask you for a loan. He will just wait for you to call him with business, and he won't bug you." And you know, I've had multiple realtors tell me that they cannot stand waking up on Monday mornings because they know that they get the 20 or 30 phone calls from all the different loan officers out there begging for Marketing Monday business. It's just, yeah, it's like, it's telemarketing. I mean, if you want to be a telemarketer, go be a telemarketer. If you want to be a loan officer, find a different way to meet people, but quit calling and bugging them.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. It's sort of like the conversation we had about me, where I don't go out and cold message
Yeah.
people. Where a lot of these marketers will be like, you accept their friend request, and 2 minutes later, you have 5 paragraphs in your inbox. Buy my leads.
Yep. And that's exactly what we were talking for those of you that are, we weren't on our meeting before this. I was telling Tyler that when he first friend requested me on Facebook, I read everybody's bio or I look at their homepage before I accept a request because there's a lot of BS friend requests out there. You get all the crazy multi-level marketing. Sometimes you get these crazy porn sites and everything else friend requesting you, right? So I don't just accept any friend request. And when I got yours, as soon as I saw marketing, I was like, man, do I accept this guy's request? Because I was so sick of like getting just hammered with marketing people. But I did. And I was impressed because you've never bothered me. You've never bothered me and said, hey, I got this great deal. It's going to add 5 deals a month to your closings. And I was like, no, you haven't. And I respect that. And I think that goes a long way with what we do when we bug realtors. I mean,
Yep.
they're getting hammered all day long by loan officers. They don't need you to reinvent the wheel, but you find a way into them by meeting them through transactions. Title companies. Title companies are my biggest source of reading realtors. But you have to have the respect, and you have to be friendly with the title agents, and they
Yeah,
will refer you.
that is 100% true. So, Todd, let's say you were sitting on top of the throne today. What is one thing in the mortgage industry that just gets your blood boiling that you just would absolutely change the first second you get that throne?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. I mean, I mean, something that boils my blood lately is broker bashing. I mean, I get it from the retail side. If if you're selling a 4.5 rate and there's brokers selling 4 1/8, I get it. You have to find something to overcome that. But it it royally pisses me off when I hear these crazy myths about brokers, and I hear the same ones over and over again. I mean, here's what I hear about brokers. Brokers are usually the inexperienced guys that can't work for a bank because they haven't got the skill set to work for a bank. Okay, first of all, that's wrong. Most of the brokers are way more experienced than the guys that started in mortgage banking. I mean, I've got
I mean,
20
you can't
plus
just
years, and
open a
most of the guys
brokerage.
at the
You
door
have
are
to have,
long-time people. Yeah, there's some
yeah,
newbies in our channel.
yeah. I mean, you have to have some experience though to open your brokerage. So, I mean, that right off the bat is
Well,
false.
that's it. It's a myth. And then the other thing is we have no control. Oh, brokers have no control. Yeah, we do. I mean, I have no problem. I mean, I can look at any one of these deals in my pipeline right now and call my underwriter directly and talk to them about my deal. I mean, I have as much control. Okay, maybe I can't walk out my office and take 20 steps and talk to that underwriter, but not very many retail guys have that anymore anyway. And even if you do, I don't need to be in front of them. I mean, a phone call works just fine. And I've got plenty of control. And I have the control that if that particular underwriter doesn't like it, I can pull that deal and go to 20 different places.
Yeah,
So the idea that we have no control is BS. The idea that that we're going to sell the loan off, and who knows who the loan's going to be with. Well, we know right away who the loan's going to be with. Most retail channel guys, their loan gets sold right after closing anyway. I mean, I'm not here to mention names, but I can name a lot of retail guys outside of Quicken that they don't service their loans either.
yeah,
Um, funding. I mean, I only work with wholesale mortgage companies that, like United Wholesale. I only work with people that let me table fund the loan. So, good example. I had a customer that, we're in a dry state, so typically our customers sign a few days before closing. For whatever reason, I had this Meyer closing this morning. Mr. Meyer had to sign this morning, and we were closing today. My wire went out at 6:14 a.m. from United Wholesale this morning. Mr. Myers actually he's signing right now. His appointment was at 9:30. So my wire was sitting at the title company before he ever walked through the door. They don't need to review that package. As soon as he walks out the door, done signing, boom, it's out for recording. So where's the loss of control there? In fact, I would venture to say that that's more control than most of the retail loan officers have out there. And again, I'm one of the brokers that's like kumbaya. I'm friends with all the retail guys. I was just at Scott Groves's consolidated coaching thing for one night just to stop in and say hello to everybody because they were in Phoenix. I never bashed those guys because we all have a role to play, but I'll be the first one to attack back when I see BS lies spread about our channel. And it's like, if you want to compete with us, find the merits to compete, but don't make up things. And that boils my blood more than anything right now. Sorry, I got off on a tangent.
no problem, Todd. So, what are your goals for the next 12 months? Let's say. I mean, I know you just had this killer month. What are you striving towards next?
Really, kind of maintaining. I mean, I did just under 60 million in 2018. My goal going into 2019 was to close. I was hoping to close 200 loans for about 60 million. Is what I really didn't set my goal any higher than it was in 18 because I'm sort of about capped out right now. But I've readjusted that after the last couple of months and the month I'm in and the month I'm looking at for June. So now my goal for this year is to do about 70 million. And, that's about it. I mean, honestly, my biggest goal right now is to try to find more free time and more work-life balance. I mean, again, it's don't feel sorry for me. I have plenty of business, but I do. It's probably my biggest struggle right now is just finding more free time.
Yeah, I mean, managing time is definitely one of the biggest struggles, but yeah, Todd, that is all the time we have today. So I appreciate you coming on. I hope everybody tuning in gets a ton of value from this. And tune in next week for the next episode of the Mortgage Accelerated podcast. Thank you again, Todd.
No problem. And sorry to everybody for the shaky screen. I had to log in on my handheld device, so I don't mean to give anybody epileptic seizures from my shaky screen. So,
not a problem. Thanks again, Todd, and thank you again for everybody watching. Tune in next week.
Thanks, guys.